Hello and welcome back to Nadya's Identity Files. I have with me the very multi-talented and accomplished Ralph Michael Brecken. Thank you for being here with us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me. It's amazing. The view of Hollywood Boulevard here. This is excellent.
Right? And it's like it's a people watching soiree, I guess you could say. I love looking out to the boulevard and seeing people look at or do like very interesting things. I get a kick out of it.
It's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Well, thank you again for having me here.
Absolutely. So we're going to talk a lot about identity and war and love and activism and all of the intersection of those things today. And obviously we're going to follow up with a round table with Brenna. And I think it's really great that you're here to discuss. And I didn't really know a lot about your background as an artist. Your work is incredible, and we're going to show a few of those pieces in a little bit.
Thank you.
So you've developed your identity then as both a visual artist and an actor, but clearly you're also an anti-war activist. So if you could talk a little bit about your journey between these different identities, that would be great.
Well, I started out pretty much as a human being who loved other human beings. When I was a young kid, I was watching the war-torn Cambodia video coming back in the late 70s, and I remember my mother watching me crying there, and saying, "Ralphie, you can't do anything about that for those kids." And I would see the Save the Children guy come on and say, "You can just send 10 cents a day," and I'd go rummage in the couch for change and try to get whatever I could to help out the Pol Pot kids. And
that's great.
It was really in my nature. And then what emerged was my creative talent. And I think what I felt was it was my responsibility as an artist and as a human being, because I do art for humanity's sake, to convey my pacifist viewpoints through my artwork and to address situations in the current political folds that aren't necessarily being directly addressed by the media.
That's great. And when did you start doing your art? At what point was there a certain event that kind of spurred the art, your work?
There was an event. I had a really kind neighbor across the street from me when I was 13 years old, Chuck Mudgett, good high school friend of mine, Ben Mudgett's father, who first gave me a set of oil paints. And I had taken some classes, in tempera painting when I was in junior high. At this point, I was a freshman in high school. And that first day with the paints, I was locked out of time and space. And my mom comes in at 5 in the morning and is like, "Ralphie, you haven't slept." And I'm knocking out.
How old were you?
About 13 years old.
Yeah, you're like up into the night. Paints are everywhere.
Right.
Probably mom is like, "Are you getting this on my walls?"
Right. Well, actually, I was fortunate. We had a little studio in the garage, which was I was very fortunate. I was very blessed to be privileged with space and time to create. And I know not everyone is afforded that. So that was the beginning of me as a fine artist. But before that, my brother and I had been making short films on Betamax and Super 8 and VHS cassettes.
Good old VHS.
Just like the movie Super 8. We were gathering the neighborhood troops and running down to the train trestles and shooting a picture just like we thought we were doing it just like, well, actually we were, with all the heart and soul of an IATSE crew.
Nice.
So,
do you have any of these VHS tapes that you've kind of kept?
We kept the tapes. Unfortunately, my brother, lacking media, taped over quite a few of them to shoot new things as we got older. But I love them, and I know creativity trumps posterity. And,
right.
But the things that have survived are really adorable.
Totally. So, can you talk about how our art has served you as an activist specifically?
It's given me a voice. I mean, it's also opened me up to exhibitions and venues where art would not traditionally be shown, and my voice as a political activist would not traditionally be heard. So if you take my piece, Patriot Action Figures, excuse me.
Now let's show Patriot Action Figures.
If you take this piece, it's showed at Central Missouri State University as a part of the Art at War Raise Your Voice Democracy Project. And it was a global project. It drew from artists around the world and focused on artists here in the United States that were addressing things like the Patriot Act. And so in that particular piece, I put myself and G.I. Joe together. I'm wearing BDU fatigues, dressed just the same as G.I. Joe. I'm giving the official salute alongside G.I. Joe, and I'm showing that, the commentary really is that we are not your toys. We are not your figurines to put out in the battlefield to use for your gains, your capitalist gains. And so the commentary there was really one of subjecting a commercial product to the political facts of what war is, the death and destruction that it causes.
Right, and super commodifying, obviously.
Yeah.
And you've had innumerable works of art showcased throughout the world, which is super powerful. And I love that you use multimedia kind of as your go-to form. Can we show War of the Worlds? And can you talk a little bit about that one? I love that one.
Sure. It's a slightly different technique, as it wasn't completely a Photoshop type project. I mean, I used Photoshop quite extensively, but this piece combines a digital photograph taken off the set of The Kingdom with Jamie Foxx and Jennifer Garner, where I was a set construction laborer, and we built that background of the destroyed building for the explosion scene in Riyadh. And then I superimposed a computer monitor, and then inside that monitor, I put my face on a scanner glass, and pressing my face against the glass, I captured myself.
Right.
And then I combined all of those with a razor and X-Acto knife together onto a panel board, putting in some B-2 bombers and some bombs, and creating this image, this montage that basically is showing what it is for us to just blatantly drop bombs indiscriminately on people around the globe. I mean, we watch it on our monitors, but they're looking up and seeing terror and destruction around them everywhere.
It's a super powerful piece,
Thank
and
you.
It's timeless and in some ways I wish it wasn't timeless, because, obviously that means that we're dealing with these issues on an ongoing basis, and I don't really see the cessation of these issues anytime soon. And I think the multimedia, that mode of for your art, displaying your art, is incredibly powerful, especially because we're in the digital world now. What drew you to working in multimedia versus just sticking to, because you started as an oil painter.
Correct.
So how did you make that transition?
That transition happened quite abruptly. I was working in my father's office as a graphics artist, and part of my job was to scale maps, flood maps for FEMA. We've all learned about FEMA from the camps. So basically, before that, FEMA was just basically a way for the government to know who to insure and who not to insure if you lived in a flood zone.
Right.
Make it short, the maps had to be scaled up for appraisals, and I learned that I could use a photocopier to scale up anything. And so I began to say, wow, I could take this digital technology and create art. So I started throwing my body on the scanner. That was my first. Literally, just like people used to do at office parties, I blew that up.
Right. Yeah, that's like such an ongoing, like a cliche joke.
It's a meme.
Just gonna
it's a meme in and of itself, and that meme I exploited to fine art. And from there, I began to then say, well, what other found objects can I incorporate? What other digital tools can I draw in? Can it be a capture from a webcam? Can it be not just scans, but digital photos themselves? And how do I manipulate them so that they become an original piece of art and not just a digital file?
Yeah, it's crazy. What projects are you working on right now?
Well, right now I'm putting together a 25-year retrospective that will open at ERG, Exchange Room Gallery, UCLA, which is at the Anderson School of Management in Westwood. So please do come out to that on March 4th. You are all invited. And then that show will go on to the Tempe History Museum in Tempe, Arizona in May, where I'll exhibit for 2 months. And I please invite all of my Tempe and Arizona friends and family out to that exhibit as well.
Or just go schlep to the desert and see it again.
Yeah, please. Yeah, it'll be like a Coachella
He's
of
worth
art.
the schlep. Come on. Hello.
Exactly.
So one last question before I bring Retro B on, and of course our round table to follow. Super psyched about that. If you could describe your identity in 5 words, what would it be? They can be fragmented. It doesn't have to be a cohesive sentence.
Creative, passionate, honest, faithful, dedicated.
Yes. Awesome.
Thank you for having me again. I've had a great time.
Totally. Well, you'll be brought back. Don't run away. All right, hang tight. I'll be back with Retro B in just a second.